in Worldwide Studios, we have a lot of energy, a lot of devotion, a lot of love around storytelling, around narrative. Some people call that single-player gaming. We do have most of our eggs in that basket, just because that's the thing we do well, I think. In my humble opinion, IMHO. And I don't want to go to any of those teams and tell them, I read in a magazine that there's something called Games as a Service, maybe one of those. I don't want to be that guy.
So I have to say, the God of War reviews are impressive, and it really does seem that we are in for a treat next week. But I think it's important I start this video stating that God of War certainly isn't the first single-player game to show these type of games are still very much alive. But I think it hopefully eliminates the dumb narrative that games like God of War are not popular and cannot be successful anymore. Back in late 2017, Visceral Games and their linear Uncharted-like Star Wars project were shut down. Electronic Arts' reasoning why the Star Wars project was getting the axe mid-development at the time was because it was all about creativity and giving players a better game. But unfortunately, one of EA's top executives weeks later went to a conference with investors and told them all the real reason why, and that reason was the following. As we kept reviewing the game, it continued to look like a much more linear game, which people don't like as much today as they did 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and additionally saying canceling Visceral's project was an economic decision at the end of the day, and that you gotta cut the bridge when you realize you can't make a lot of money on something. Now, this whole situation with Visceral Games, the longtime developer of the Dead Space franchise, was a sign to many that single-player games were in trouble, in the AAA space at the very least. Many who work in this industry did not take too kindly to what Electronic Arts was saying about single-player games. Cory Barlog, the guy who directed a little linear single-player game called God of War, which currently is sold out on Amazon in multiple countries, and is currently being described as Game of the Generation by some, and sits at a 95 on Metacritic based off of 83 reviews, with so many 10 out of 10s, which I feel I have not seen happen in years, did not take too kindly to the EA executive's comments. He responded saying, "Oh dear God, EA, just utter nonsense." Microsoft has also said some very eye-opening and worrying comments in the past. Xbox head Phil Spencer spoke to The Guardian last year saying the audience for those big story-driven games, I won't say it isn't as large, but they're not as consistent. You'll have things like Zelda or Horizon Zero Dawn that'll come out, and they'll do really well, but they don't have the same impact that they used to have because the big service-based games are capturing such a large amount of the audience. Sony's first-party studios do a lot of those games, and they're good at them, but outside of that, it's difficult. They've become more rare. It's a difficult business decision for those teams. You're fighting into more headwind. Just the other day, Phil Spencer actually gave a very interesting response to IGN's Ryan McCaffrey, who stated Xbox fans are dying to celebrate a masterpiece level exclusive like God of War. Thing is though, it took Sony 10 years to get to this point where their first party is firing on all cylinders. This work started in the PlayStation 3 era. Xbox might get there, but it's going to take a long time. Phil Spencer actually directly responded to this tweet saying, our hardware took time, our service platform backwards compatibility took time, and continuing to grow our first party will take time. A high quality and diverse first party, yes, with single player built the right way is our goal, and what our customers deserve. We can have similar results to what we've seen in hardware and platform. Look, my big issue and the real problem I see is everyone making excuses for why they have not gone forward with single player games. In Microsoft's case, as we discussed just the other day based on some leaks, it does look like some big announcements could be coming, like possibly Fable 4 at E3 2018, but Phil Spencer's comments about Horizon Zero Dawn and Breath of the Wild have also been in my eyes worrying, because it at the very least sounded like they were following the multiplayer experiences, which will probably bring in more long-term revenue than a single-player game. Electronic Arts recently launched A Way Out, which they didn't have high expectations for, and Joseph Fares.
This is insane. If the whole world tell me your game is shit, I'll tell them, no, it's not. Right. That's how much I believe in it. Okay. All right?
The game's director has stated multiple times that his team gets 100% profit. I guess it's just good PR for Electronic Arts. Anyway, A Way Out launched 2 weeks ago and has sold over 1 million copies. Electronic Arts originally forecasted that A Way Out would sell only 894,000 copies total. Amy Hennig, who was originally the director of Visceral Star Wars Project before it was canned, discussed the topic of single-player games and what's the problem with them, saying, "I think we're in an inflection point right now. Obviously what happened with our Star Wars project didn't come out of the blue. A lot of too dramatic articles were written about it, the death of linear story games and all that kind of stuff. But look, there is a real problem. This line we've been running up to for a lot of years, which is the rising cost of development and the desires or the demands even of players in terms of hours of gameplay, fidelity, production values, additional modes, all these things. These pressures end up very real internally. If it costs you, say, $100 million or more to make a game, how are you making that money back and making a profit? And the $60 price point can't change, right? There's a lot of negative press around monetization, loot boxes, games as a service, etc., but these things are trending now in this industry, especially for large publishers, as an answer to the problem of rising development costs. Budgets keep going up, the bar keeps getting raised, and it starts making less and less sense to make these games. There's also this trend now that as much as people protest and say, why are you canceling a linear story-based game? This is kind of the game we want. People are not necessarily buying them. They're watching somebody else play them online. As bizarre as that response is, I understand what she's trying to say. I guess it's kind of a defense of EA, but I think it's wrong. In the last number of years, we've heard about the failures and sales of single-player games and how some have underperformed, like Bethesda's Prey and Evil Within. But we don't often discuss the large amount of multiplayer games that have failed, like Battleborn or Lawbreakers. What I think is that too many publishers think that pushing out mediocre multiplayer microtransaction-driven games are the way to go, because it's not. Everyone sees something like Grand Theft Auto Online and the billion-dollar revenue it's brought in, and many other publishers have tried to make similar experiences in hopes of getting the same success, but it's never worked. Right now we have the Battle Royale genre with PUBG and Fortnite dominating. Later this year and in 2019, everyone will try jumping on that train, but honestly most will fail because of oversaturation. God of War and those beautiful scores are an important lesson to Electronic Arts and Microsoft and other publishers that even though you think everyone just wants more multiplayer Star Wars or Halo games, that's not what we want. We want variety, more blockbuster single-player games, and most of all, quality experiences that aren't jumping on a trend. We want games like BioShock, The Last of Us, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, Horizon Zero Dawn, Mass Effect, Red Dead Redemption, Super Mario Odyssey, Fallout, Dishonored, Uncharted, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, Assassin's Creed Origins, and God of War. Quit putting the narrative out there that single-player experiences of any sort doesn't have the interest it used to have, because it's completely untrue. If you provide players with something special and unique, which is extremely high quality, you can expect us to come out in droves and buy said game at launch. Turning popular franchises into mediocre multiplayer-driven games with a slapped-on short single-player is not sustainable, and I think it's at the core of players' issues with Microsoft and Electronic Arts right now. God of War is now within days of releasing, and honestly, as someone who loves quality single-player experiences, I'm just so excited by the reaction to this game thus far, and it truly makes me a bit hopeful that other publishers are listening and seeing what players really want. Anyway guys, what do you make of the comments coming from Electronic Arts and Xbox recently about single-player games? It at the very least sounds like Phil Spencer is listening, but right now, it's all talk until we see action from them. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or found any informative value, and consider subscribing for more videos like this. Turn notifications on so you don't miss out on any videos, and I'll see you later.